One of the reasons why it is very hard for people to accept this is people use relationships as trauma bonding. People are trying to fill a
Ooh.
void. People are trying to fill a void with the relationship. So
My
even if
goodness.
it is so clear, even if it's so clear that this is not going to work, the fact that this person is being the father they never had, being the mother they never had, giving them the
Mm.
experience they never had while growing up. But you see, when you get married, you're going to suffer many.
Hello, and welcome to another amazing episode of TMC, where we are here to help you take your relationships from surviving to thriving.
We're going to deal with two perspectives on this particular episode. We're going to deal with the perspective of before you get married, but we're going to also talk about the aspect of if someone has already got married and you're having a struggle, you're having a few hiccups in your marriage, what to do in that particular situation. If this is your first time joining us, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of these amazing episodes. And don't forget that sharing is caring.
Today on TMC, we have NIKE FOLAGBADE with Before You Get Married.
I am a marriage counselor, a relationship coach. I've been working with singles for the past 10 years, and I started to work with the married people for about over 3 years now. I'm always very passionate about seeing singles discover themselves, make healthier relationships decision, and also prepare adequately for marriage. So it means I have a premarital class that I also run for them. And I also work with matured single, really helping them to meet the right person for themselves with ease. And so I help the married people navigate a difficult marriage. Usually, I like to work with people who are in a difficult marriage. I help them to heal, to thrive, and to navigate with wisdom. So that's a little about what I do. I've been married for almost 7 years. I have one boy. I also work as an HR manager sometimes with my husband. So these are some of the things that I do put together. Yes.
Okay, awesome. So let's start right here. So you've been married 7 years. If you can go back into a time machine, let's say, I don't know when you guys first met. So if you was to go back to that moment when you first started dating, what are some things that through your marriage you had to navigate through that? Like, man, I wish I would have did this in the beginning before I got married.
All right. So let's say I met my husband over 10 years ago. And so
Okay.
we dated for about 3.5 years before we got married.
Okay.
Now, when we got married, we started to get used to certain trainings. I remember that we attended a training on Neuro-Linguistic programming, which is NLP. And right in that program, they taught us about values elicitation, how to discover your values, how to make sure that you and your partner are on the same page. And I remember that that season I was, speaking to my husband and saying to him, so tell me your top five values, tell me those things that matters to you the more. And for him, it just felt like as long as we connected on many things and we really had passion, same like passion that, yeah, family, God, integrity, all of that is check, 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 and all of that, But when I got into the marriage itself, I started to notice a lot of little differences here and there.
Okay.
So I started to see that even though we had similar values, the ranking was totally far apart.
Mm.
And so, what was major for me, like number one, number two, could just be like number seven, number eight for him. And that means he's not going to put in the kind of effort he's supposed to put
Mm.
in that place. So, even though it's something we could do together sometimes, it's going to always be an issue for me because I wanted like 100%, but you're giving me like 20%, 30%. So, somehow it becomes like a disappointing marriage because some of the expectations that you had is not really coming up like that. And so I had to learn how to be patient. I had to learn how to model what I want. I had to also stop trying to force him to be the version of the husband that I wanted. I had to learn to
Mm.
understand who he
Wow.
is, his individuality, and to really just find myself, like find my own core and enjoy being myself while he
Yes.
also enjoys being himself. So if I was to go back, I would really want us to clarify those values, understand how it's going to work, understand what's going to keep us together. And yeah, I think that if a lot of singles do this, it's really going to help them to avoid getting disappointed in marriage. Yeah. That's one
Wow.
of the things I would go back and change.
Wow, wow, wow. Nikki, I love this. I love this because this really explains something, because this is something, I mean, we've done with couples, picking out those values, but we never explain. Maybe someone, when they say integrity, I mean, it's like, what do integrity mean to me? And what do
Yeah,
integrity mean to Shante? Both, just because we chose
yeah.
integrity
Integrity.
doesn't mean,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
typically stop at that surface point. And what you just said, I'm like, wow, this is really good. This is really good to really dig into those values. And I think that's definitely a room for conversation. I just want to kind of move, down this road that we're going down. So we're talking about, so you're learning the values. You mentioned getting
Ranking.
clarity, getting ranking and getting clarity in the values. So what's next? Is there questions you should ask?
All right. So I think you already started that conversation when you said you need to explain what something means. So I think that singles, while you're together, planning to get married, so sit down and have this exercise where you're not trying to do an interview session. You're just going
Mm,
to be as free as possible, but allow yourself to just open up about your desires. So
uh,
I always tell couples, create a marital vision for your marriage.
mm,
And because that's what multinationals have. And that's why there is a business culture that every single team member and staff must imbibe. If you don't want to be a part of them, then you cannot be right there. So when you create a marital vision of what you want, then you have to state it clearly. What would our marriage fulfill? What are the goals? What are the expectations? What are the mission? Now, when you're done with that, you're able to look at yourself and say, I don't think I can fit into this future you're trying to create.
wow.
Mm.
Because I notice, while working with people, I'm talking to someone and it says, you know what? I understand I want to be married, but I don't want to be with my spouse. I want to be far apart working. And my families are just here. I hear these things and I'm like, are you serious? Like, you really want to be far apart? So now, if you do a marital vision, and in this marital vision, the woman says, I see us building a marriage together where we wake up and we do these routines, we do this habits. And the man says, well, for me, I don't want to do these things with you. I want to be somewhere in Bahamas working, and I just
Mm,
come back home 3 times a year. She's able to know that I think there's going to be a problem here. So
mm,
create a marital vision,
wow.
write out what you're going to both do together. Then your values can then come in to say, even if we both share spirituality as a value system, my spirituality might be really deeper than your own spirituality because people connect to God on different ways, in different ways. Some people connect to God from a place of, I just know God exists. I pray to Him when I want. I don't need
Mm.
to go to church. I just stay back and just do my fellowship in my house. Another person is thinking every decision I make must go through God. I
Yeah.
must
Mm-hmm.
pray about it. I must do everything. So even though it's still the same spirituality, it's operating at different levels. So you need to explain what you mean. You need to create the expectations and then say, what areas do we need to compromise and what areas do we need to bring together for the table? Yeah.
Nikki, I
Wow,
love
wow,
this. And
wow.
this is really so good because it really puts you in the mind. And this happens a lot with those expectations. Be like, okay, I'm Christian, you Christian, let's get married. But it's like, what do that mean? What do
Yeah.
that mean? How involved, how devoted, how dedicated you are to your Christianity or to God or whatever the case may be, whatever religion you're
Mm.
a part of. It's like, what values do we have? Are we talking about being a Mother Teresa, or are we talking about, just going to mass or going to church, going fellowship, or what are we talking about here? So this is good.
Absolutely. Because what I hear you saying, we talk about what we expect, what we want, what we desire, and we're painting a clear picture with our words, with what that looks like with our spouse. Because you said it multiple times in just these few minutes that we've been talking, it's like there has to be clarity. There has to be clarity, because if we just say spirituality is important to us, what does that mean to the other person? And you just laid it out for us. For one person, it's I believe in God, I pray sometimes, that is what it is. For the other person, no, it's deeper, it's more than that. He has to be actively involved, and everything goes through him. And even when you think about what you want as far as being home, and I just want to be married and travel and do what I do and show up when I show up. Painting a clear picture is what I hear you saying, and communicating clearly what you desire is important to someone before you step into the ring of saying we're about to get married, making it very clear. So now they're painting a clear picture of their expectations. They have a marital vision. What would it be to say the next step? You've painted the picture, you have a marital vision. What would be the next step for someone to see how and where they can collaborate?
So I want to just kind of recap. That's 4 things that I've already taken out of what we talked about already in these just last few minutes, which is so powerful. The first thing you talked about is the values. Then after the values, you said the clarity. Then after the clarity, you talked about the vision. And then you talked about the expectations. What's next?
So I think that it is important for people to agree with the truth and the reality that they have on ground, which is what we call acceptance. So when you are clearly stated what you want and you notice that there is going to be a lot of clash, I always say to engaged couples, it is okay to separate. It is okay to end that relationship.
Come on.
When I have premarital classes, and we get on board, I tell them this program is for 4 weeks. Some of you are going to end the relationship before we're done. And some of them are like, oh, what do you mean? I came here to learn. I'm like, yeah, you came here to learn, but I'm not going to let you go into a pit.
Yes.
And so somehow, before this program ends, we start to see that people are having clarity and they're saying, no, I can't be with this person. We are going to fight. I'm not ready to back down on this, and you are not ready to back down on that. So let's just leave it this way. Now, there are certain things that are okay to just deal with. The certain expectations you can let go of, because it's not major.
Yeah.
But you see, these ones that are major, someone saying, I want to build my family together. This other person says, I want to be at home 3 times a year. That is enough reason to end the relationship.
Absolutely.
So the woman says, I want to be a businesswoman. I want to have businesses around the world. And the man says, no, 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 no. You have to just babysit, and that's all you're going to do. You're just going to be in the house, no business, nothing. I will fund you. I will take care of you. And the woman says, but I have a dream. I want to build a future for myself. I want to support you. I want to partner with you. Now, some people just let go of these things and just say, well, let's just get married. We'll find a way around it. And so they get married, and there is frustration. There is bitterness. There is resentment. And, I sit in sessions with couples, and the woman or the man, they're just ranting in pain. They're just saying, you're not letting me be myself. You crippled my dreams. You crippled my this. You don't want me to do what I want to do. You just want me to do your business. And I'm looking at them saying, I wish they had this conversation before they got married. And a lot of people deceive themselves. A lot of people are getting into marriage, but they're manipulated. They're hiding stuff. You know what this person wants. You know that this is what this person wants. But because you want to I want to marry you. You're my prize. You're so beautiful, or you're handsome, or you have a car. Whatever excuse is, I will marry this person. And then you get married, and the real game begins. Because if relationships kind of just opens your eyes to little things, marriage is going to expose you to the reality that you cannot run away from. So it is important to decide in that point that we're not going to continue with this relationship. A broken relationship is still better than a broken marriage. And I know that a lot of people are afraid of starting all over again. I know, and I get it. But you see, it is better for you to marry late and live in bliss than to marry early and live in frustration. Sincerely, if you get into the marriage, you're going to really wish that you didn't start it. Why not just wait? One day you're going to find someone who allows you to be yourself.
Ooh. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You just set a
You know,
blazing fire. You said the step is acceptance. And the first thing you said, believe the truth that is on the ground. Believe the truth that is on the ground. And you said it is okay to end the relationship. For those that I'm like, wow, because you're talking about compromising. When you're talking about compromising in a major way, that's not going to be a compromise, because that you're going to feel like you're suffocating and you're drowning. And the next thing you said that was a nugget was, it's better to marry late and live in bliss than to marry early and live in misery. And it's like, why? Like, I think that for someone to hear this ahead of time and make that decision, like you said, some couples do decide this is not going to work. Let's end this. Let's move forward. To make that decision before you create a life and create a family and bring other people into misery, such as children and a family, you can do this and make a whole different decision and live the life that God intended for you to live with the one that is going to allow you to live in bliss and be purposeful the way God designed for you to be.
You know, one of the reasons why it is very hard for people to accept this is people use relationships as trauma bonding. People are trying to fill a void. People are trying to fill a void with the relationship. So even if it is so clear, even if it's so clear that this is not going to work, the fact that this person is being the father they never had, being the mother they never had, giving them the experience they never had while growing up. But you see, when you get married, you're going to suffer neglect. You're going to experience rejection. You're going to feel invisible. So that very trauma that you're refusing to heal, oh, it's going to come right in your face. And this time around, you are going to become a beast. And the other person is going to become another beast. And the both of you are just going to hate yourself. Even if you are good people, you are two good people. You see, relationships and the suffocation that comes with it makes people to really become something else. Because people can't just be who you want them to be. And you know, a lot of people are just bringing their narcissist tendencies into relationships, giving this love bombing tendencies, and people see it and say, I love this guy, I love this lady, just gives me everything that I want. But when you get into marriage and notice that the values don't match, the vision don't match, everything just comes right out of your face. So singles, discover yourself. Heal from the childhood trauma, the dysfunction, heal from these things, and don't think that marriage is going to repair them. It's going to worsen it. So just heal, do the work before you get into marriage so that it becomes easier.
This is good. And Nikki, I don't want to leave anything on the table for the singles, but I do want to shift a little bit to someone right now that is listening to this podcast and like, man, Cedric, Shante, Nikki, that's me. I didn't look at the values. I didn't ask the questions. I didn't do exactly what you guys are saying. And you know what? I'm here right now. I've been driving down the wrong highway. How can I make this thing work? I am a child of God. I believe in marriage. I believe in what God said because God ordained marriage. I want to stick and I want to please my Father. What do I do? What do I do?
Absolutely lovely question. Thank you so much for asking this question, because right now a lot of people are in a marriage where they really feel disappointed and they do not think it can work. But you know, our God is a God of redemption.
Yes,
He is a God of second chances. That's the funny thing, you know. The first thing that you must do is to stop trying to control the situation, you know, stop trying to change your spouse, preach to your spouse, enforce your rules and regulation, you know, and all those things that we try to do. You need to just step back a bit and begin that work that you didn't do on yourself while you were single. Now is the time to start the work. So you're going to stop trying to focus on your spouse and you're going to focus on yourself. So you're going to sit down and you're going to begin to have what I call thinking time. It's your me time, it's your therapy time, and it's just you by yourself doing a soul walk. So
Yeah.
you're going to sit down and say to yourself, okay, so what brought me here in the first place? What was I seeking for in the first place? Okay, I wanted to feel loved. I wanted to get married. The pressure was too much. Whatever reasons, write it down. And it's so good for your brain when you write these things down. Don't just say, oh, it's just that. No, write it down because you need to interpret to your brain what is going on. Your
Mm.
mind needs to understand the work you're doing. So, why did I marry this person? You write it down.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I feel frustrated? You write it down. What is my contribution to the chaos in this marriage? You write those things down. Now, when you do it, you then ask God. I mean, I'm a faith based counselor, and I always say to people the identity crisis that you had while growing up can only be fixed in God. The highest you can do is to get self help books, go for therapy and fix a lot of things. But it doesn't change your spirit because we are body, soul, and spirit. Your self help and therapy books will help you with your soul. But you see, your spirit can only be mended by God. And that's why it's an inside out healing. So
Yeah.
you do it side by side. You speak to God and say, Lord, this is what I've gone through. This is how I am. I need you to work with me. And then you go to your therapist and say, I need to work with my emotions, my soul, and all those things happening at the same time. It makes it work perfectly. Because when a lot of people just spend time with God alone, somehow they still feel something not, it's not complete, like it's not
Mm.
perfected.
Yeah.
And then when people go to the therapist again, and that's where they focus only, they just continue a cycle where they feel like I'm empty, like something is still wrong from within. So do the both work, go to your therapist or go to a counselor and then sit with God and begin a job, So begin to read books on personal development, emotional intelligence, self-discovery, spirituality. Read all these books and help yourself to discover yourself, you know. And then when you're doing this also, you need a support system because your partner will not be a lot of things that you want. You may not be able to connect on many aspects. Remember that the values do not really match.
Mm-hmm.
So those things that you really want to sit with your spouse and talk about it, you may not be able to get that kind of connection because connection in marriage, the first connection that must occur for every other thing to align is emotional connection and spiritual connection. Many people are trying to connect sexually, but you see, sexual connection only thrives when there is emotional connection. So
Mm.
you need a friend or a support system or counselors or mentors or maybe a group of men or women depending on the gender that can really just help you to find yourself in that season. So when you need to have conversations sometimes about your business, about your life, and your partner doesn't give you that kind of attention, you go talk to the person, find someone trustworthy and talk to the person. I always prefer that you speak to your counselor or a therapist, someone that is neutral and not trying to
Mm-hmm.
damage your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And so reduce the expectations also. So for instance, you want to have a mushy kind of marriage where your partner kisses you on the forehead, speaks your love language and all of that. But when you try to hug your spouse, maybe they don't hug you back. You need to understand that there's a problem and don't make it personal. Don't take those things personal. Don't feel like, oh, maybe something is wrong with me, or maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe I'm not perfect. And that's when people start to go for surgery. They try to lose weight, they try to do all sort of things. Just maybe the other person is going to accept them. No, you must just do the work for yourself. Whatever you're doing, do it because you want to feel good with it, because you know that that's what makes you more confident. And so while you do all of these things, you then need to use wisdom to navigate your marriage. For instance, if you're in a marriage where everything is really not happening the way that you want, you're going to notice that a lot of things get dramatic when you want to have communication. So your communication will not always go as straight as when you have two friends communicating. So it means that you must know how to wait for the right time to talk about certain things. You must know how to watch the mood of your partner. You must know how to watch the environment. You must know how to pray for your partner to accept certain things. You must also be okay with some uncertainty because sometimes you're not certain about what you're going to get. And when you take it to God, He's going to fix this person, but maybe not according to your timeline. Yeah. So maybe you were setting a goal and saying maybe in the next 1 year, God is going to just fix everything. You don't know. Maybe it's going to be 2, 3 years because God has to do a work in you. There's a work that God wants to do in you before He gives you that change that you want to see in this marriage. So in this season, this person must not be your idol. God is fixing you. He's telling you this is what happened while you were younger. This is something you need to heal from. You have these labels. Your mother said this to you. Your father said this to you. When you begin to work on these labels, this trauma, and you begin to really heal, and then you're also striving. You find out what you want to do. Maybe you have a hobby or you have an interest somewhere. You like to go to the gym or you like to dance or you like to write. Do those things. Don't stop doing what you would have done if you were single. Do the things that makes you happy. So by the time you look at everything, you notice that you don't feel so bad and so sad because your partner is not being that person that you want them to be. Over time, you will start to notice that they are modeling the change that is occurring in you. You are going through transformation and they are seeing that you're changing because you don't respond in the same way anymore. You don't react to things in the same way anymore. You are a complete different person. And before you know it, what happens most time is the man comes and says, I think I have a problem, or the woman, I think I need help because you are just different. There's something about you. You're no longer nagging. You're no longer controlling. You're not manipulating. You're not always, trying to fix things. You're just being yourself and allowing me to be myself. And now I feel so attracted to this change I have seen. And I really want to know what you did because I also want to be this kind of person. So yeah, it takes some time.
It's only so much you can share with us in this short period of time. For someone that want to connect with you and want to learn more about what you're doing, where should they go?
You can follow me on Instagram. It's NIKE FOLAGBADE, NIKE FOLAGBADE. You can also go to my website, NikeFolagbade.com. I have books, I have resources, free and paid. I have a book titled Untold Secret Direct Marriages. It contains a lot of secrets that the Lord has to show to me to say these are some of the issues in marriages that people don't know. They just like to focus on themselves and fight themselves. If you can deal with these things, you deal with a lot of foundational issues. I remember also that there are patterns in our families, there are traumas coming from our families. You need to solve these things and don't think that your marriage will just be different from your parents because you wished for it. You got to do something totally different. You got to think differently. You got to act differently. You got to just be the repairer of the bridge. So Don't worry. I'm trying to say a lot of things in just few seconds because of my time and all. But then when you read those books, you find it. And we're currently running a tour for women in difficult marriages. And that's what Warrior Brightness is about, the program. But we're currently running a tour and we definitely plan to come to the US. So who knows?
Yeah.
When we come, maybe I'll reach out to you to say, hey, I'm in US, do you want us to do something and all of that? Yeah, so I do hope to come over to the US and all, but right now we're still in Nigeria, going from state to state, and that's what we're doing for now. So yeah, just come over to my website on my page and follow me, and you see a lot of things that I do. Thank you so much for this podcast. It was really mind-blowing. Thank you.
So we hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, go ahead and subscribe. Click the like button and turn on your notifications so you'll be notified each time we upload a video. And if you're listening on iTunes, you can rate this podcast and please leave a review. That helps us get the word out.
So we want to thank you for joining us today on TMC. Looking forward to hanging out with you again on next week as we continue to help you take your relationships from surviving to thriving. Bye. See you next week.